I'll start over. My name is Jeff Jensen. I am the mayor of Afton. I'm greatly appreciative of being here today. This is the first time I got to do this, because we actually didn't do this last year, and so I'm very happy that everybody is here and has traveled to Afton for this Heritage Hall of Fame induction ceremony today. Appreciate your time and your efforts, and those that are speaking today. But most importantly, I appreciate the people that are being inducted, and and the impact that they've had on Afton and the surrounding area. We always talk a little bit about in the committee about who should be inducted, and it's Afton focused, but then we realized that it doesn't. Being Afton focused really is a focus on Upper Valley, and anything that happens here locally is just spread throughout not only Upper but Lower Valley, and everybody tends to know, the families that have been here tend to know the history and those people and the great contributions that they've made to this valley and to this community. Personally, I'd like to start off with and thank just a couple people, particularly the committee that put this together, and that which is Pat Davis, Rodon Rude, John Capps, and Rex Saunders and Val Bagley. They've been working since December to put this on and to make the decisions on who would be inducted, and they put a lot of work and effort into it. There's also just a couple city staff, Nikki Miles and Sadie Phillips, that have helped put things together, and just like to publicly thank them for the efforts that they have gone through. Appreciate, once again, you being here for this ceremony, and hopefully you can enjoy also the Freedom Festival and the activities that are going on, and being a part of a whole day of celebration here in the town of Afton. Briefly, I just want to have a little introduction here. The Heritage Hall of Fame, sorry, I gotta get rid of these, is an award from the town of Afton to honor some of its outstanding citizens of the past who have performed service over and beyond the ordinary. Recipients of the Heritage Hall of Fame have passed on. Requirements for the award are involved in Afton's community progress, contributed significantly to the economic, social, or spiritual growth of Star Valley, displayed exemplary qualities of commitment, support, skills, character, service, leadership, citizenship, all over and beyond a paid position. And today we honor the 2024 recipients, who are George Howard Hemmert and Charles Chuck Frederick Sutter. Sorry. You know, I'm glad you did it, because it's been in my head Sutter the whole time, and I knew I was going to mess it up. I apologize for that, and thank you for correcting me. So to begin with, we'll start with the Pledge of Allegiance, which I'll lead, and then directly after that we'll have the Star Spangled Banner by Brock Hatterley. And so, sorry, I did get that right. And so, if you would not mind, stay standing if possible through the Star Spangled Banner. I appreciate that. So, if I have everybody rise, please. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Oh, say, can you see by the dawn's early light what so proudly we hailed at the twilight's last gleaming, whose broad stripes and bright stars through the perilous fight. O'er the ramparts we watch were so gallantly streaming, and the rockets' red glare, the bombs bursting in air, gave proof through the night that our flag was still there. Oh, say does that star-spangled banner yet wave o'er the land of the free and the home of the brave?
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay. Thank you, Mayor Jensen, for not only your participation today, but for the support that we have felt as a committee during this whole year. The committee for this Heritage Hall of Fame event was first organized, and they had their first meeting on November 4th, 2010. At that time, Larry Call was the chairman of this committee. And I'd also like to thank Brock, he's probably already gone, for sharing his talent with our community. He will be a senior at Star Valley High School this fall. This event could not come to fruition today without the committee members that the mayor mentioned. They were such great support to me. In January, we as a committee met and reviewed all the applications that we had. We were keeping in mind this quote from Coretta Scott King: "The greatness of a community is most accurately measured by the compassionate action of its members." The compassionate action of Howard Hemmert and Chuck Sutter caught our attention. They were selected as the 2024 inductees into the Heritage Hall of Fame. To give you some insight into their qualifications, we will first hear from Dr. Win Hemmert, son of Howard Hemmert. In the introductory comments of the Hemmert application, Win stated that his father was a contributor and not a taker. Dr. Hemmert, please share with us these details.
We are very honored to be here, and I was instructed by Pat that I had 7 minutes to give a 20-minute talk, so we'll see. Don't have a red light up here on the stand, so we're okay. I want to also express gratitude to the committee, City of Afton, for the foresight that is part of this Heritage Hall of Fame. I think it's really quite remarkable. And the support system that is in it for novices like me, although I was born and raised in the Valley, we didn't have anything like this when I grew up, and I was not exposed to this kind of a thing, so we worked at a distance. Most of Howard's descendancy is scattered around Utah, Wyoming, the country, and many of them have gathered here for that. We've had family come from Houston, Texas, and the West Palm Beach area of Florida, Colorado, southern Utah, even Mexico. So we're delighted to have them all here. And it's been a wonderful thing for us. So thanks to everybody that's made this happen. I'd like to just let you know in a heartbeat, or maybe 2 heartbeats, how it happened that we are here today. She mentioned Larry Call. 10 years ago or so, I was visiting with Larry Call. We've been close off and on for years, and he's been a mentor for me from time to time. At that time, when I sat down with him, I told him how impressed I was with this Heritage Hall of Fame. And he looked at me and he said, "Win, your dad needs to be up there." And I didn't say much because to me that seemed like an impossibility. To tell you the truth, I really didn't know the details of my dad's early life. He was 45 years old when I was born. He was 64 and I was 18 when he passed away. And the best years of his life were not known to me. The best years of his life in terms of activity and energy and enthusiasm and making things happen were in the 1920s, the 1930s, the 1940s, and the first part of the 1950s. Then his health began to fail, and he passed away in 1961. Now, because I didn't know and could not find sources for his early life, I just thought it was an impossibility to nominate him for that wall out there. Years went by. Technology changed. I discovered a website as I was doing family history research, a website that's called newspaperarchive.com, that digitized newspapers from all over the country. And in their digitization index was the Star Valley Independent. From about the 1920s or so up into the 1990s, every issue. So I bought a little 3-month subscription and dialed in my father's name and pushed the enter button and ended up with 450 references to Howard Hemmert. Amazing. And I rediscovered or discovered my father. You see, the people that I could have talked to were either passed away or in rest homes or demented. That was the truth. So, digitization saved us, and it was a great discovery. So let me just touch on a few things, and I'll try to make this brief. You've got a little more detail in the pamphlet, and if you really want to read more detail, if you go to Family Search, I've loaded Howard and Estella's life history combined into the Family Search resource there. Now, Howard came from primarily Danish ancestry, pure Danish ancestry on his father's side. He's a multi-generational cooper and blacksmith, and those crafts and trades were passed down from father to son to father to son to father and son. I could trace at least 5 generations, and Howard learned those skills from his father. On his mother's side, it was English ancestry, and her ancestry goes back into Great Britain, as you might expect. But there's also a Dutch segment that goes into New Amsterdam, the Massachusetts Bay Colony, or British. There was a smattering of people, including Mayflower people, and then also a German piece that is part of his ancestry. Now, those things all had influences on him. There's no doubt about that. I would say that he was limited in what he could learn. They lived in Wyoming. There was 8 grades of schooling possible to him, unless you had a lot of money that could come up to Afton to more education. And so he got an 8th grade education. When he and Mom got married, she was 18, he was 25 in 1922. They were married by Justice of Peace, Thomas Vanoy, and they were poor as dirt. You could not have been more poor than they were. And after a few years of working with his father, they moved to Freedom, where G.A. Neuswander kind of helped give them a boost. G.A. was their brother-in-law. And Howard and Stella were given a place to live in an abandoned confectionery store on Main Street. They turned that into their home. Stella made cabinets out of wooden fruit containers that you buy in a grocery store, and they divided the rooms with sheets, and they had a wood-burning stove to keep it warm. There was no electricity in those days. So they were almost like pioneers, but they made their home, and GA helped them start up a little business across the street. What do you think it was? Howard Hemmert Blacksmith. And later they added influence. He sold case tractors for a little while. And then a bigger financial boost came when he partnered with Ernest Brogue, and Brogan Hemmert was born. And in 1938 they moved up to Afton. Now Ralph Hemmert was an integral part of all that they did, Howard's brother. He was a master mechanic. And he ran the mechanic side of the implement business and some of the sales. He was excellent. and he and Dad were joined at hip for many, many years. Now, my dad's first job was when his dad, at the age of 16, said, you know, you're 16, you need to kind of look for a job. He didn't want him to stay in his business. And so Howard, at the age of 16, became a teamster, driving wagon between Montpelier, Idaho, and Star Valley, Afton, Fairview, over the Crow Creek drainage. At 16, driving horse and wagons. It's amazing. Now, let me talk about some of the things that he has done for the city of Afton. He just dove in after he got here. He was a force for good. He let out, he made things happen, and he got things done. That was just his nature. He was very bright and smart and intelligent, and he was a joiner. He got involved in stuff in town. He was part of the Afton Civic Service Club, the Wildlife Club, the Star Valley Wildlife Federation, the Afton Businessmen's Association, the Star Valley Chamber of Commerce, the Lions Club. He helped support war bonds during World War II, the organization of the sale of those bonds, and American Red Cross funds. He also was a major contributor and helped with the fund drives for the Boy Scouts of America. He made lasting contributions to Afton. It's interesting when you think about it. There was a three-man committee appointed. Dr. Treelor, who some of you may remember, Ken Olson, and Howard Hemmer were invited by the city to oversee the paving of the streets. The streets were paved in Afton, Wyoming, with the direction of those three men. He also was responsible for making sure that sidewalks were put along Main Street. When he first had his business here, it was just dirt, and then it got paved, and then he had sidewalks put in. He also donated and contributed, physically was involved with the development of the athletic grassy field, which still stand, one by the old Afton Grade School and one where the high school was. That big field out there, Howard Hemmer plowed that and leveled it and planted it. That's how we got grass there. He was initially invited to head a committee to establish some type of recognition for veterans. And there were discussions about monuments, and there were discussions about special plaques and roadside stands. Someone had the idea that they had to go big. And so they looked toward development of a building, which is now the Veterans Memorial Building. It took years to get that idea and concept finished. There were a lot of iterations of it, but Howard was the driving force for a long time to get that off the ground. He also helped get the construction of the Lander cutoff marker that's out on South End. And although he didn't design or contribute in a significant way to the Elkhorn Arch, he did help gather the Elkhorns in that. If you look at what their business contributed, still in town, Brogan Hardware introduced sprinkler systems in Star Valley. And obviously we have different kind of sprinkler systems now. Now, one of the things that is good about this man is that he was not only intelligent and teachable and curious and always wanted to learn new things. And he read the Salt Lake Tribune every single day, had it delivered to our doorstep. He was a self-made businessman. He had good business sense. He knew how to lead people and engage them. He was willing to learn, and he evolved in the course of his business career. He wasn't involved directly in politics, although he did run for public office a couple of times. But he was, I guess I shouldn't say he wasn't involved publicly in politics, but man, he had an influence in the city, and he and the mayor were always talking to each other about things that needed to happen. Now the question might be asked, I haven't said anything about the church. In Star Valley, when I was a kid, the church was not the elephant in the room, it was the room. I mean, it was part of society. It was just the way it was. Well, his grandfather was the second bishop in Thane, and his siblings were very active members of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints. His father was not. And my father, when he became a deacon, stopped going to church. He was just involved in other things. And he was also exposed to a lot of smoke and fumes and stuff in his blacksmith shop, but he smoked cigarettes in addition. And that always embarrassed him. He didn't feel like he could participate in the church if he was smoking cigarettes, and he just couldn't quit. He tried to come back in 1950, but as he was walking up to the building, a very unfortunate comment was made, a joke, I think, about Howard Hemmert making the walls of the church fall down, and Dad heard that, and I heard that, and Mom heard that. And Dad just clenched his teeth and went on into the building to Sunday school. But he never came back for 7 years. And the only reason he came back at the end of those 7 years in 1957 was because a wonderful man named Max Robinson was the bishop and called him into his office. Dad didn't want to go. I remember when he went out the door, he had a suit on, shirt on, colorful language. Went out the door to see his friend, the bishop. And Max Robinson talked to him for about 40 minutes. Dad came back. And he said, "They want me to be in the Sunday school presidency. And by damn, I'm going to do it." And that was it. A year later, we all went to the temple. So a man can change, and he did. And it was a remarkable thing to see. Well, he passed. Funeral was a big funeral. I was surprised. I was a freshman at the University of Utah. Came home at Christmas. My dad was critically ill in the hospital. He passed away on the 29th of December. And it was hard. Sat on the front row with my mom, holding her hand. The opening prayer was given by a man, E. Francis Winters. Let's take a break. One of the talks was B. DeLoss Gardner, counselor. Let's take a break. One of the talks was Max Robinson, former bishop. One of the talks was Bishop Kellersberger, the then extended bishop. And would you believe this, Pat? There was a lady named Elaine Child that sang. And there was a guy named Doyle Child that blessed or dedicated the grave. Did you know that? You know it now. It goes around full circle. I'd like to close now. Just remember, it started with a conversation with Larry Cole. And then his life story developed because of modern technology that required a wait of 10 years. A city and a town who cares and pays past and respect to the past. And if we don't remember our past and our history, we lose our identity and our foundation. Stephen Hawking said that more eloquently than I have. He was talking about the universe. But it applies equally well to society. If you turn away from history, you lose identity, and it's a terrible, terrible loss. There was I'd mentioned this before, but there's a Roman, I guess a Greek philosopher from 500 BC named Heraclitus. He talked about flux and stability and how things change or don't really change. He compared life to a river. And we jump in the river and experience mortality, and we may splash around and cause ripples and stuff, but at some point in time, we're out of the river. And the river just keeps flowing. And we don't leave a mark on the river. It just goes on past. I don't know that that applies to us if we remember our past the way we can. We can make a difference. Howard Hemmert, although he is not remembered by hardly anybody that lives in the valley anymore. We were in Hastings yesterday and bought some stuff that, the Ace Hardware store, and there was a clerk in there, a young girl. She was about 25 years old, and she said, "Why are you here?" And I went on to say why we were here and talked about Brogan Hemmert Hardware, and she said, "I've never heard of that." That was the largest building on Main Street, and maybe even in Star Valley when it was built. very successful business, a big business, but it's gone. And she didn't know anything about programming hardware. She didn't even know who Bob Hastings was, who started Hastings. And she lives here, she grew up right here. So we need to remember our past, and I'm grateful to be here in this wonderful circumstance. And thanks to the city of Afton, and special thanks to Pat Child and Tom Davis, sitting back there, for sacrificing his wife, and to all of this endeavor. And then I've got one more thing to say. Joyce, this is the 29th of June. It's been 58 years since we had our first blind date, this very day.
Thanks so much, Will, for giving us that insight into your father. There's a lot of things I didn't know because of how we were only 17 and 18. I would like to invite all the friends and family of the Howard Hemrick family to please stand up. And I would like to invite Lynn and Don Burton will assist him from the committee. And they will unveil his portrait now. Hold it up, Mark. Can you hold it up higher? Thank you, family. So it is an honor for me to accept and recognize George Howard Hemrick as an official member of the Town of Afton Heritage Hall of Fame 2024. Members of the Hemrick family, and you've seen the names on the program. By the way, if you didn't take a program or a brochure for either one of these candidates, they are out on the table. Be sure to take them when you go home. We'd like to have the members of the Hemrick family now that are on the program come up and perform for us God Bless America. And I understand from Wayne that they want us to join in the last chorus.
We'll let you know when to join us.
God bless America, land that I love. Stand beside her and guide her through the night with a light from above. From the mountains to the prairies, to the oceans wide with foam. God bless America, my home sweet home. While the storm clouds gather far across the sea, let us swear allegiance to a land that's free. Let us all be grateful
wedding cakes, 2 Veterans of Foreign Wars, 2 St. James Flag-a-thons, 2 hunter safety classes to the EMTs. Chuck Sutter was a fiercely patriotic man of many hats. His son-in-law, Eric Bueller, will be our next speaker.
Thank you, Pat. Yes, you all did see, she mentioned I am Chuck's son-in-law. It says in the program I'm a grandson, but I am in fact his son-in-law. I married his daughter, Eve. It is quite an honor to be with you here today to honor Chuck, and we are very grateful to be here. Charles Frederick Sutter, we all know him as Chuck, was born in 1933 to Charles William and Margaret Louise Ball in Salem, Ohio. He attended school in Utah, California, and Washington while growing up, as his father was a civil engineer. At 18 years old, he joined the Air Force and was stationed in Alaska. This is where he developed his love for hunting and fishing. During his time in the Air Force, he served during the Korean War. After the service, Chuck attended a cooking and baking class, as well as working at Rocketdyne, where he assisted in building the rocket boosters and eventually made it possible to propel the Apollo lunar module off the face of the moon. Finally realizing his dream, Chuck was accepted to attend the Los Angeles Police Academy. After graduating, he worked for the Santa Monica Police Department. He did this for several years until he was injured apprehending a murder suspect and was forced to retire. After retiring from the Santa Monica Police Department, a buddy of his told him about a place in Wyoming that had the best hunting and fishing on the face of the earth. He had to check it out, so he packed his bags and he moved to Star Valley in 1969. Soon after arriving, he became the chief of police for the town of Afton, which he continued for 12 years. Now one day on a random traffic stop, he pulled over a beautiful girl named Eva Cheryl Flukiger. Now I was told that they had met earlier and he only pulled her over so he could flirt with her. But now after knowing Cheryl, I'm pretty sure she was speeding. At least we know where the grandkids get it from. Chuck pursued Cheryl until he caught her, literally. Shortly after they were married and started the beginning of a beautiful 51 years of marriage together. Chuck has 4 daughters, 14 grandchildren, and 5 great-grandchildren, and some really amazing sons-in-law. Right, Sean? While in Afton, Chuck devoted his life to serving the people of the community. He organized the Afton Police Reserve. They made sure that the town had 24-hour police coverage. He also traveled all over Wyoming and Idaho, educating youth about the negative effects of drug abuse and to just say no to drugs. He was instrumental in starting the first ambulance service and the first class of emergency medical technicians in Afton. Both Chuck and Cheryl were proud to serve as EMTs in the community. Chuck and Cheryl spent many years and many great memories partnered with Radon Rood and David Welchman. He helped build wings on the Pitts Plains while working at Aviat for a few years. He loved doing this because he loved working with his hands. Whether it was tying flies for his fly fishing addiction, building cabinets and bookcases, or making and decorating birthday and wedding cakes for people all over the valley, he loved using his skills to help anyone he could. It was important to Chuck that he stayed in shape. Just about every morning you could find him at the high school weight room, opening the doors at 5 a.m. so he could get his workout in. He met many of his lifelong friends through doing this. He also organized an annual bike-a-thon to raise money for St. Jude Children's Hospital. I remember several years that he himself committed to riding a bike throughout the valley so that he could get his 50 miles or more in. Even in his 70s, he continued to ride along the highway. I even remember one time we had to ask some of his grandchildren to ride with him because we were worried he was going to fall over and get run over in the highway. Then even in his 80s, he still continued to persevere and made sure that he did that St. Jude Children's Hospital Bike-a-thon. So in his 80s, we had to put a stationary bike in the back of his truck so that he could sit up there and ride it to his heart's content at the same time everybody else did. He continued this bike-a-thon for 45 years. Now, if you ever got a phone call from Chuck, you had to clear your schedule because he loved to talk to people. He always cared about the well-being of others. This characteristic helped him excel when he worked for Schwab Mortuary. He was very good at helping people who needed him in their time of sorrow. Chuck loved his country and the people of Afton, Star Valley, and Wyoming. He loved hunting and fishing and camping, and spent lots of time doing all three of these with family and friends. Bob Scott was a great friend. He went hunting with a lot, as well as many of his in-laws and grandchildren. We could be here all day to tell you many great fishing and hunting stories. I'm sure if you talk to any of his friends, family, or grandchildren, they can talk for hours to tell you some wonderful stories, if not hilarious ones. Just an example of one story I remember. He took several of his grandchildren fishing. I don't remember where it was. And I believe my son Preston was with him, who was maybe 3 or 4 at the time. And Preston had never been fishing before. And he caught a fish. And I guess Preston thought that, you catch a fish and you eat it. So when you catch the fish, it must be dead. Well, he caught the fish. They're standing on the edge of the river. And when the fish came out, it flopped around a little. And Preston said, "It's alive!" And then pretty much jumped and almost knocked Chuck into the water. Like I said, I'm sure there's many, many other wonderful stories that we could share. If you ever got the privilege to visit Chuck in his home, he was proud to show you his extensive owl collection. He was a very strong, outgoing, and fiercely patriotic man. He was Veterans of Foreign Wars Commander for Star Valley Post 4797 for 24 years. He was also the American Legion Commander for Afton Post 46 for 17 years. Vernal Cleverly was almost always with him as his devoted quartermaster for most of that time. Cheryl even nicknamed Vernal as Chuck's girlfriend. He'd get a phone call and Cheryl would say, "Chuck, it's your girlfriend." Chuck was presented an award for All-American Commander from the VFW National Headquarters. He was instrumental in starting the Veterans Medical Clinic in Afton and drove the Veterans van to Salt Lake City, transporting veterans to and from medical appointments. Chuck also received the prestigious honor of serving for the governor on the Wyoming Veterans Commission. Doing honor guards for deceased veterans was something very important and very dear to his heart. He did 293 of them when they started counting. He also presented countless Eagle Scout awards to local Boy Scouts in the community. Chuck also loved to teach Wyoming hunter safety classes. He did this for 38 years and was honored to teach more than 1,850 students in that time. He's getting ready to set up another class in 2022 when he passed away a month before turning 89 years old. He was a very patriotic man. He loved to lead parades by pulling the veterans float, displaying all of the patriotic flags and his fellow veterans using his bright red patriotic truck. He leaves behind a legacy of leadership, patriotism, never-ending love for his family, and never-ending service to others. On behalf of all of us in his family, it is a great privilege to be here today to honor Chuck Sutter. Thank you.
Thank you, Eric. We appreciate your remarks. And at this time, I would like to invite the friends and family of the Charles Frederick Sutter family to stand. And please remain standing while we unveil the portrait with the assistance of committee member Rex Saunders. And this will be done by another son-in-law, Sean Wilkinson. Please be seated. It is also another honor for me and a privilege to accept and recognize Charles Frederick Sutter as an official member of the Town of Afton Heritage Hall of Fame for 2024. Now we will be pleased to hear from members of the Wilkinson and Bueller families as they sing God Bless America. God bless the USA. And that's what's on the paper.
If tomorrow all the things were gone I've worked for all my life, and I had to start again with just my children and my wife, I'd thank my lucky stars to be living here today, 'cause the flag still stands for freedom and they can't take that away. And I'm proud to be an American, where at least I know I'm free. And I won't forget the man who died, who gave that right to me. And I'll gladly stand up next to you and defend her still today. 'Cause there ain't no doubt I love this land. God bless the USA. From the lakes of Minnesota to the hills of Tennessee, across the plains of Texas, from sea to shining sea, from Detroit down to Houston and New York to LA. Well, there's pride in every American heart, and it's time we stand and say, and I'm proud to be an American, where at least I know I'm free. And I won't forget the man who died, who gave that right to me. And I'll gladly stand up next to you and defend her still today. 'Cause there ain't no doubt I love this land. God bless the USA. Where at least I know I'm free. And I won't forget the man who died, who gave that right to me. And I'll gladly stand up next to you and defend her still today. 'Cause there ain't no doubt I love this land. God bless the USA.
Thank you so much for your musical number too. It's been a great great privilege to honor these two men. We like the example of how your families have continued to share and give service with your music. Would like to thank you again for your attendance and express appreciation to all of you who have participated in the program today. You may access this program if you want to rewatch it at sbinews.com. If you had family members that weren't able to be here or whatever. As you leave the Civic Center today, please take time to view the display tables out here in the foyer. There is a brochure for each candidate and then a program, so there would be 3 items that you can take with you if you'd like to. To further celebrate, there's a lot going on today. We have arranged to have 4 museums open for you. One is right here in this building, the Color Museum, and there are 3 outside, just beyond the building. that we've had open for you from 11 to 2. Some of you that are older might remember an older park called the Starview Park on 5th Avenue. So the Heritage Corner is going to take place there, and they're going to feature communities of Osmond, Grover, and Afton. Is that correct? Did I get that right? Okay. Rex is also involved in that, and he said there will be games and activities for people of all ages to learn more about the history of those communities. And of course, the Freedom Festival is going on today. They're set up on Main Street. They have bounce houses and also a fish scramble for the young ones. I think you'll have a lot of fun participating in that too. Now this evening at 7 p.m. there will be the Ranch Rodeo. And we will be further honoring these new inductees. They will ride into the arena tonight in their own carriages, and we will introduce them there. And that rodeo starts at 7. And I'd like you to know also that there will be a national parade on actual July 4th day at 5 p.m. where these inductees will be recognized again. So today, as you leave this building, I'd like you to carry with you this thought that I really paraphrased from President John F. Kennedy. I know this isn't exactly how he said it, and I hope he'll forgive me. But ask not what your community can do for you, but what you can do for your community. And again, thank you for your attendance. That concludes everything official here. Have a great day browsing around.